I'm pleased to be speaking this afternoon with Ben Slade. Ben was a student in our program that graduated in 2015, and he right away went to work for a company called Main Street Hub that was purchased by GoDaddy, where he is now a systems analyst. So thanks for joining me today, Ben.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Start off by talking a little bit about what a systems analyst does at a company like GoDaddy.
Yeah, my role is really like tying all the pieces together between engineering and product and then the operations teams and all the fulfillment teams. So I support all of GoDaddy Global Services. So a lot of things where I'm helping build integrations between our own like internal homegrown tools and other use and then design and build out all of like the workflow tools that all of our operations team use. My team is really good at understanding the problems of the actual operations teams where that gets lost in translation when you're looking at it purely from an engineering standpoint. And so they'll develop this really beautiful system that's like really eloquent and well coded up, but then like when you try to implement that, it just doesn't actually work that way in the real world. So there's a lot of things I do to kind of help smooth that kind of relationship.
So, how has your job had to change with the COVID-19 pandemic?
As of 3 weeks ago, we were all asked to work from home mandatory full time. Previously, in my role specifically, I kind of had the flexibility to work from home if I wanted to. I really liked going into the office because I like being around my team and people, and I feel like I'm more productive around people. But it wasn't a huge change as far as what I was able to do, but it was more so a change for all of my stakeholders, all of the different teams that I work with. A lot of them had to be in the office mostly for different IT reasons, and being able to get into all of our systems and tools and stuff. They have to be on network, so getting a lot of users who aren't necessarily as technical savvy up to speed on the VPN and all of that type of stuff. Getting phone systems set up was a huge challenge. My team was actually brought in to be like backup IT support for a little bit because we had thousands of people that had to get moved to working from home. Um, the other big yeah, being at home, me and my wife both working from home full time all the time now. It's a little bit of an adjustment, right? We both have our own little home offices set up. Um, yeah, I guess my actual day to day hasn't changed as much other than the interaction with people because I do already, most of my was already spent on Zoom and working with people remote. I have my like small team in Austin I work with, but then the other half of my team is in Arizona. And then there's also people all over the UK, Australia, everywhere in the world basically that I'm having to work with on a day-to-day basis. So it wasn't like a huge change to be remote and be on Zoom all day, but it's more so just the day-to-day interpersonal connections, that you don't get.
I mean, I think a lot of people have talked about how their day to day is pretty similar, but it's like the digital skills are really extreme at this point. They really come into play with everybody that you interact with.
Yeah, exactly. For instance, there's a couple other systems analysts in Austin that I work with, and we all sit right with each other and we'll really talking things out, right? And it's a little harder to do that over Slack throughout the day when you're just throwing things around, throwing out ideas, or having questions. It's really hard to read into the subtleties and see exactly what someone's talking about with it being able to lean over and look at their screen, right? So we have to get really good at communicating, being very detailed in your communication, right? So that you don't leave anything to question.
Are there any changes that the broader company has had to implement to deal with this, particularly with their external customers?
Yeah, so there's been pretty much as soon as everyone was starting to shut down and everyone was going mandatory work from home, all of our priorities, at least from my organization, kind of almost got put on halt briefly because all of the focus shifted to how are we going to handle this crazy situation, how are we going to communicate to our customers, what kind of things can we offer to help our customers. Thankfully, GoDaddy is in a place where a lot of our customers, we still provide a valuable service regardless of their state, right? It's even more important now to be able to have themselves up online and have their services transferred to being able to be delivered online, things like that. So there was a lot of different things from like proactive outreach campaigns that we did to all of our customers to try to help prompt them to have us put up like some sort of banners and things like that on their website about how they're handling the situation. Different of I don't know, like put content changes for our content writers, and just completely at one point halting all scheduled content from going out because it was, maybe a little bit not cognizant of the situation to come, right? And so we just put a pause on everything, and then had to completely re-strategize how our content writers write and the way that they're thinking about this for all of our customers. And then aside from broader things as far as like uh, team communication and like morale type things, I think it's easy for people to get kind of like headspace when everyone is separate in your own little world 24/7. So things like my team has implemented, we do like team lunches 2 times a week where like everyone on our team, which is half in Arizona, half in Austin, will all like get on a Zoom together and just an hour in the middle of the day a week. Or like if you can make it, then you make it, and if not, you don't. It's a good time to just like be social. And then also like happy hours, not real happy hours, but we'll all like every Friday we have a scheduled like hour-long meeting at the end of the day where if you want you can hop on and just like have some social interaction with people you would usually see in the office. So that's been those have been some like cool ways to handle the isolation.
I mean, morale and culture are such important things to deal with when a company goes virtual, and especially when they go virtual so quickly, the way so many companies have had to do. I guess your company, people are not necessarily worried at this point about any layoffs or reductions because of the critical digital nature of what you do.
Yeah, not at this point, I would say we're not so much worried about that. We are, I think GoDaddy is in a pretty good spot. Um, it's really hard to say as how long this will go and the impacts it could have. But yeah, thankfully, a lot of the service we provide is like just as valuable now, if not more valuable right now than it was prior. Some of our a lot of our focus is on small businesses, right? We try to help entrepreneurs, like everyday entrepreneurs and small businesses, get their stuff out there. So some of that, obviously, those people are hurting. So um, some things like some of the marketing and services like that we provide are a little bit less of a priority for them right now. But in the broad scheme of things, we're not really worried about that just yet, at least.
Fortunately, that's
Yeah,
good.
very
Um,
fortunate.
are there any pieces of advice that you have for somebody who's about to start working at home that, maybe hasn't been used to it
Yeah.
before?
So a couple big things that, I had to transition into is stuff like making like getting up and like getting dressed as if you're going to work, and like doing the normal routine as if that it sounds silly, but it really is like important, like doing the normal routine you would do as if you were going to go get in your car and drive to work. Get up, shower, get dressed, whatever it is, and then like have your coffee and just maybe even like go outside and walk around a little bit to get your blood flowing, and then go to your desk or whatever it is. Otherwise it's just harder to get in that like productive, okay, I was at home and now I'm at work state. And when those two worlds start to blend, there's kind of like two problems. It's hard to be really productive, and then it's also hard to like step away from your work. So taking breaks, or like at the end of the day you find yourself like, oh, like I could just do this a little bit longer. I can just like, yeah, I'm gonna like go make dinner, but then I can have my computer open and like do this thing as well. And so it's kind of important to like just make sure you have like a dedicated workspace where you're going to work from that is as separate as it can be from your living spaces and things like that.
We went online with classes after spring break. This was our first week back in doing online teaching, and students are having a disrupted semester, particularly seniors who thought they were going to have time with their friends, they were going to be graduating and having commencement, which is now postponed. I've got seniors in my capstone class who are very nervous about the job market that they're graduating into. They were nervous before, as normal. I think you remember what that was like. And now it's even more nerve wracking. So what kind of advice do you have for students that are in this situation particularly, as well as just in general in job hunting?
Yeah, this situation I can imagine is going to be extra tough and stressful for them. But I think it's almost a good thing that it happened when it did and not a little bit later, right? Because they're having this experience of finishing their last semester maybe via Zoom and the online, and getting that taste of working virtually and online. Because one of the things I was going to say is in this environment, you have to be comfortable hopping on like a virtual call, right? In this scenario, all of your interviews and then even your first day of work is going to be virtual. We've had new hires starting and they drive through a little like drive through kiosk to pick up their computer, and then go home and do their trainings all online and at home. So you have to be comfortable doing that. So at least they're getting that practice, that it's, kind of a, I guess, a silver lining of the timing when it happened maybe. And in general, I would say just don't restrict, like, and you might have things you want to go into or companies you want to work for, but don't restrict yourself too much. Be open to looking at different opportunities, because you really don't know when you're in that situation what it's going to be like until you get out there in the workforce and find yourself in a position. And yeah, you can be surprised what you end up liking to do, or the type of company or industry you end up enjoy being in.
Are
Yeah.
you involved with the hiring process?
No, so on my former role, on my former team, I was, as far as hiring some of the people for that team. Towards the end of my tenure on that team, I was, one of the more senior people and would do a lot of the interviews and all of that. My current role, not so much. I mean, when we hired a new systems analyst, I am one of the people who interviewed them, but that's pretty rare. And there's 6 of us across all of GoDaddy. So
What kind of things
that's a
make a
smaller team.
candidate stand out when you have been involved?
Yeah, I would say big things are like, it sounds cliche, but being able to like handle ambiguity and being able to like show that you're like comfortable problem solving and stepping into like unknown territory. Being like very transparent and open about things, not like trying to act like you know everything, I guess is what I'm trying to say, but being willing to show that like you understand concepts and things like that, but don't necessarily have to know all of the specific skills that they want in a job description, maybe, right? Like you can talk about how you understand, I don't know, I'm blanking on examples, but different concepts, and be able to talk about your like experience with those concepts, but you don't really have to be an expert on all of them. You just have to show that you're like interested in learning, or that you're like, you have that type of mind that's like driven by solving problems or thinking about things, right? And able and open to discuss that stuff. I think that makes a big difference, aside from other candidates I've interviewed where they're more shut off and they're more like rigid and they're, oh, I know how to do this and that. And then when you ask them something that catches them off guard, they're a little bit more like fumbling because they're trying to come up with the right thing to say, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with me. If GoDaddy has any opportunities, particularly entry-level positions that you hear about, please let us know, and I'll share them with students or get students involved in, the recruiting process in any way. I'm really making an extra effort to reach out to my network to try to be able to get some people some placements, because I know that there are companies that are still hiring, and I've heard about people getting jobs in this environment.
Yeah, there definitely are companies still hiring. I honestly don't know what our standpoint is, where we stand on that right now. I just haven't heard anything, but I will definitely let you know if I know of any open positions or anything like that. So yeah, thanks for having me talk to you.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing what's going on at GoDaddy, and I wish you the best, and hopefully we can talk again maybe in person sometime soon.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully
Okay.
one day.
Hopefully. Take care, Ben.